Many times, creditors have been frustrated by the slow wheels of justice, which creates an incentive for defaulters to resort to courts, knowing that most Kenyans won't bother to pursue the debt. The long legal processes and costs involved resort to many giving up pursuing their money, as it ends up making no economic sense. It's even worse for those with low income, since they can't afford litigation. And this is the reason behind the establishments of small claims courts. It's another episode of Moolah Insider, and this week we'll be telling you how to go about recovering that money you lent to a friend and he or she refused to pay, a supply contract you're not paid, or that motorist who hit your car and refused to compensate you. In this, many and similar disputes are resolved at the small claims courts. My name is Margaret Wahito. But first, we start with the word of the week, and the word of the week is adjudicator. In legal terms, an adjudicator is someone who presides, judges, and arbitrates during a formal dispute between two parties. Adjudicators have numerous purposes, including initial legal judgments, to determine an applicant eligibility, or to assess contenders' performance in competitions. And now to our main story of the week. Over 70% of cases in Kenya involves disputes ranging between 0 to 1 million shillings, according to a study done by the judiciary. This includes both civil and commercial disputes. And to address these, small claims courts were established through an act in 2016 to resolve these cases within 60 days and at less cost for Kenyans. So how do you go about recovering the money you lent to a friend or that supply contracts you are not paid? Here is how the small claims courts work in Kenya. For many people owed small amounts of money, the courts have rarely been a good idea. Whether it's a soft loan to a friend or a case where a partner takes over the proceeds of a deal, you're usually guaranteed that the case will drag through the courts and you'll pay so much fees, and spending so much time chasing it, you will come out poorer. When the judiciary checked the backlog of cases, they found that small disputes took up 70% of the court's time. This is the reason behind the establishment of small claims courts through a law enacted in 2016. Ken Odhiambo is one of the first adjudicators appointed to preside over cases at the small claims courts.
A study was conducted in Kenya, and it was discovered that most of the matters filed in our courts, the jurisdiction range between 0 to 1 million. So most of these matters have been staying in court for so long. And Kenyans are complaining that they want swift, expeditious way of resolving disputes. So one of the core functions of the judiciary is to expeditiously resolve disputes. And the only way to resolve this was to establish the small claims court. So the small claims court was established so that we can have those matters whose pecuniary value are between 0 to 1 million being handled in the small claims court. So that's the background behind the establishment of the court, to decongest our courts and also to make justice be administered swiftly and expeditiously.
The disputes you can file at the small claims court can be either civil and commercial. The disputes range from business contracts, personal injuries, material damage claims, and others. However, employment contracts, land matters, defamation, and criminal cases cannot be filed in the small claims courts. For civil cases, the maximum cost for filing is 1,000 shillings, while for most commercial cases, the filing cost is free.
The small claims court was meant to lower the cost of litigation. It was meant to make it simpler for any person, whether represented or not represented, to file a claim in court. So there are some matters which you don't pay anything as filing fees. So long as you have lodged your documents through the e-portal, you'll be given a date. So in that, as per to cost, I think we are the cheapest in filing fees. Our cost may be range from 0 to 200 shillings or to 1,000, depending on the documents filed. In other courts or in other courts, you'll find that lodging a claim, for example, a personal injury claim, you may file a minimum of 500 shillings or 550 for the pleadings, and any subsequent document you file, you'll be charged. If you are filing a term of service, you'll be charged 75 shillings. If you are filing submissions, you'll be charged. But in the small claims court, those fees are waived. So you'll end up using less amount of money.
The court has also reduced the demands for litigants, so the adjudicators does not need to see written contracts or documents as evidence. All you need is any evidence that shows the money was meant to be refunded and was not meant to as a gift, like the gifts exchanged between couples.
I had a peculiar case. I'll not mention the particulars of the case, where person X, Y were dating. Along the way, they separated. Now, during their relationship, person X was giving this lady some money, gifts, and when their relationship ended, he filed a suit saying that I want to be compensated back all those items that I gave. So he quantified all those gifts from 2018 to 2021. Now, it all depends. If the gift was given as a gift, you can't claim it back. But if the intent of giving the money was the money to be repaid back, then you need to prove that it was a loan, which has to be repaid back within a specific period of time.
At this court, everything is done online, from filing to the proceedings themselves, which are done virtually. As per the rules set out for this court, the cases should be resolved within 60 days.
You will get the forms online, whereby the forms have the particulars of the person making the claim and the person you are suing. So you will fill in the details of the person you are suing and the particulars of your claim. Now, in the particulars of your claim, you will briefly state why you are suing person X, Y, and Z, and then you'll be given you'll have a checkbox on on the amount that you want to be compensated with. Then you sign and then you file it. So when you file it in our e-portal system, the matter will be categorized whether it's a civil matter or a commercial dispute.
Since establishment last year, the small claim court at the Milimani Commercial Law Courts in Nairobi, for instance, has received over 5,000 cases, with 2,829 already concluded and 2,800 pending. In terms of monetary value, the court has managed to recover over 202 million shillings under the civil disputes and 375 million shillings for those who filed commercial cases.
So that's money circulating back in the economy. Now, in the other courts, the money will be tied up due to either backlog and matters being filed. So maybe that money will be released back in the economy after 2 or 3 years. So if you are that small company of yours, and you are depending on that as capital, it means that you have closed down and you could not either employ people. So the small claims court was meant to bridge the timelines and the time taken to resolve dispute.
There are 3 small claims courts that are operational so far, and they are at Milimani Commercial Law Courts in Nairobi, Thika, and Kajiado. The judiciary is yet to operationalize these courts in other counties.
So we have a good positive feedback from litigants, advocates on the court. So we will encourage our wananchi to file matters in our court. Our rules are not that complex. It's a very simple court. It was meant to ensure that even that person who is at Nyalgunga can file a claim in court and proceed. People have the belief that courts are meant for people who have money.
Now you know what to do or where to go if you have loaned anyone money and it's been so hard to get it back. And this takes us to the next step. How do you go about filing that case and what happens from the beginning to the end? Let's take a look. First, download the form from the judiciary website under the Small Claims Court. Then fill in your details and the details of the person you're about to sue. Then clearly state the reasons why you're suing that person. You'll then be required to state the amount you want to be compensated when the case is completed. After these details, you will sign the document and submit online. Once the form is received from the Small Claims Court end, the next step will be to determine whether it is a civil case or a commercial case. Please note that there are no charges under the commercial disputes. You will then receive instructions which include when to serve the person you're suing and the time within which they're supposed to respond, which is 15 days. If they don't respond, you will file an affidavit that they did not respond, and once the courts confirm the defendant didn't respond, then a ruling is made and the case ends. If the person served responds, they will fill their response forms and the hearing date is set. If the case is not complicated, one hearing date is enough to resolve and end the case. If not, several days can be set. You're watching Moolah Insider, and to watch our previous episodes, please log on to www.moolah.co.ke or link with us on our social media pages. Now next is Pursuit. This is a segment where we feature entrepreneurs with unique stories as well as insights about personal finance. And this week, comedian, radio presenter and online influencer Auntie Jemima narrates her journey from being an accountant to one of the top online influencers in the market. Let's take a look.
Give me my tickets back there.
My name is Wagari. Alias Auntie Jemima. I am a content creator, radio presenter, and comedian, and I love me.
Jemima.
You. Guy, you ready to my friend?
Asante sana.
Hello. Wanansi.
Before she became Auntie Jemima, Wangari Ngori was an accountant working 8 to 5 for 3 years. Growing up, her dream was to be a radio presenter. She ended up in the accounting profession because that's what her father wanted. Her journey to her current career, where she's a comedian and a radio presenter, began in 2016 when she posted her first video online in an effort to put her craft out there for someone to notice her talent.
When I was tempering, had them huko nyuma whistling with those chamas they were with that. So first video April 2016, second video September, then the other endorsement came in 2017, August 2017. And the pay came, I think, after 6 months again. So it was a struggle. I was like, gosh, kwani huku mtu anaibiwangu aje?
For most online content creators, the initial expectation is that online traction should automatically translate into money. Auntie Jemima had the same struggle, and she wondered what was the problem, as her fast-growing following was not translating into money.
I was always feeling like it's because you do your craft in Kikuyu, that's why you're not attracting endorsements. But I was motivated, I was just keep doing it. Consistency pays. At some point I was like, man, I'll quit. Then YouTube started paying pole pole, because again there's a threshold you must meet before they start they monetize your channel. So there was money coming from YouTube, and then boom, the endorsement came. But it took time. It takes time for brands to also accept you. Like, wow, okay, we can pay her now. She's doing consistently, and she has a huge following now. Let's try. And once the first one comes, the rest, they always come, they follow.
Her first endorsement deal came in 2017 when she was paid 400,000 shillings.
Man, I was happy. Guys, I was happy. I furnished my house. I opened my website. I bought myself a laptop. I was happy. Nilikuwa naamka naangalia account balance kama kuna mtu ameitoa. And then from there, then I also started now earning from YouTube. YouTube also pays good money. So I'm able to sustain or to pay my people through that, and also pay some of my bills with that.
5 years later, Auntie Jemima is now a renowned content creator, comedian, and a radio presenter with over 194,000 subscribers on YouTube, 118 followers on Instagram, and over 355,000 followers on Facebook. And this is how she makes her money.
Number one is through YouTube. YouTube pays. Facebook bado ijaanza kulipa Africa. And then endorsements. I always say when you're starting, there is no shame in looking for those businesses. I called brands. I went and knocked doors. I told them, hey, I'm doing this and this. Please come on board. Let us do this for you. And then, so there are those who would accept and come on board. Others now just call. When you're a big brand, they'll start bringing themselves. You have turned my kitchen into an Italy. You go to the Italy there, unachukua sausage gapi? Biri.
For instance, on YouTube, one has to attain a minimum of 4,000 watch hours and at least 1,000 subscribers to start earning. As a beginner, a YouTuber in Kenya gets an average of 100 shillings to 500 shillings per 1,000 subscribers. For Instagram and other platforms, endorsements depend on the influencer's brand value and their negotiating power. And just like many influencers, one of the biggest challenges is making sure one is paid as per their brand worth.
There are brands who will call you and they'll feel like you're only doing it in Kikuyu, so we will miss out on the other audience. We will miss out on that. So that's number one, the language. But I always tell them it's a niche audience, and they convert. The other challenge is you know your worth. So this is how much you charge for your product. And then you go find someone else has charged like half what you're charging, and they'll be given the jumbo. So at the end of the day, you're like, it's fine. It's fine. I always say your worth, the right one will come. So I think that's the biggest one we are fighting or we are facing as influencers. People not knowing how much to make brand worth yao. So unapata nyinyi mnasafa.
Money and fame, she says, requires financial and personal discipline. She has learned to live within her means and not to try to please her huge fan base with her lifestyle, a trend that has left some influencers bankrupt.
So if you work under the impression like that I need to please people, I need to show people I'm driving this car, I need to show people I'm living in this and in such a house, hey, my friend, utaumia. Just know where to draw the line. Just know you're giving them content. They don't have to dictate how you live your life. Pressure iko. Ai, mtu atakupata kwa matatu anze kuongea. There was a day another actor was found eating chips without chicken, and people talked without knowing whether she has allergy or whether ama maybe hana do, because sometimes you don't have money, you know, or you don't want to eat chicken, you just want to do fries. So don't leave, usiwache watu wa dictate maisha yako. And then again I say always have someone to advise you financially. It is very important, whether it's a manager, whether it's whoever it is. Financial advice is very important.
Kuku ni zagu, mtoto ni wangu, nitamshomesha na kile ninataka. Wanita, nizipeleka kuku.
Now, after pursuits, next is the leading indicators. This week, we start with the stocks and the foreign exchange. We also look at the price of basic commodities this week. Now that's all we had for you this week on a fourth episode of Season 3. To watch our previous episode, please log on to www.moolah.co.ke or link with us on our social media pages. I have been your host, Margaret Wahito. See you next week.